I'm done for the day.
I'd say you are.
Is that a rig with fake legs, or is that you on your back with legs up?
Oh, no, we're gemstones. Plenty of people get dragged on their back, trust me.
Yeah. You match the same shot of Bradley Cooper when he is reading the Bible at the end with the same, framing of when he's choking out his accomplice.
Bradley Cooper and myself sort of came up with it largely at the same time. Victor, weddings, Civil War, it's all the same. We all did the same stuff. We really are.
Welcome back to another episode of Psychocinematic. Today my guest is Paul Daley. He is one of the cinematographers on HBO's The Righteous Gemstones. And today we're going to be talking about his work on Prelude, Season 4, Episode 1 of The Righteous Gemstones. You might remember it as the Civil War episode starring Bradley Cooper. Paul, thank you for taking the time to do this. I truly appreciate it. I had been watching The Righteous Gemstones for a while, and then I wasn't subscribed to HBO Max for a while, so I kind of fell off. But then when this opportunity presented itself and I heard that this was like a prequel episode, I was like, yes, I would love. And like the idea was fascinating in itself. Since I've seen a couple seasons of this show, I know that this was definitely I guess maybe tonally similar in a dark comedic sense, but visually a lot different. And I was curious, were you tempted to shoot this on film?
It wasn't an option, quite honestly. Yeah, 35 millimeter would have been great, but no, there was no way. We are a very by season 4 of The Righteous Gemstones. That is a very tight, smooth running, aggressively scheduled show that could make evolutionary changes, but revolutionary changes would be seriously frowned on, I think. So no, it was never an option.
So the halation that I'm seeing, like the subtle bloom, is that just a lens filter, or do you just choose different lenses, or is that kind of across the board in the show?
Actually, most of it, specifically the Prelude stuff you're talking. Yeah, that what I did, I largely shot that episode clean, and knowing when we got to post there was going to be some dramatic moves with it. So some of that halation was an element of the 35 millimeter grain we put on there, the bleach pie pass look we put on there. That's really accentuated it.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Something that and I know this is kind of strays a little bit away from your role as a cinematographer because it gets a little bit into audio, but this is something that you would definitely know. And I've always been curious when I'm watching something like this, when you're shooting a wide angle that includes dialogue. So in the beginning with the minister, where do you record the audio? Are you using lavs? Because I don't see a place where you could hide the boom.
Yeah, so they are laved.
Okay.
Yeah. The deal you make with the sound man is we're coming in, and that's when the boom comes in. So a sound man would probably shoot you dead for saying this, but I think it's largely scratch audio on the wide shots, and when you come in, it's forensically mic'd.
Yeah, that whole intro scene, I really liked a lot of what you were doing with the composition in there. There was, just the way that the subjects were framed up was great. And then I also was watching I believe it was behind the scenes that had your voiceover, and you were talking about how you did, you matched the same shot of Bradley Cooper when he is reading the Bible at the end with the same, framing of when he's choking out, I guess, his accomplice. All those little touches I love. Are you constantly looking for opportunities to do that stuff?
Yeah, and that particular one, it was a perfect moment for a match shot, and Bradley Cooper and myself sort of came up with it largely at the same time. So what about this? What about this? I don't remember whose idea it was first. I suppose I should say it was his, right? Just to be diplomatic, but
sure.
Nonetheless, I was like, well, this is where the camera's going to go. This is how we're going to light it. This is the frame. Can you work within that? He said, absolutely. And then we decided to match that shot with so the murder shot was then matched with the come to Jesus. Oh my God, that incredible moment, matched as it's supposed to be a juxtaposition, looks exactly the same, but the mood is a juxtaposition. That was the idea. Not many people picked up on it though. Not many people realized it was a match shot.
Yeah. So when you're going to shoot something like that, did you guys shoot those scenes at the same time so you never touch the camera, or are you using a different method to make sure that everything looks, I guess the continuity is correct?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the murder shot, the strangulation shot, was shot on the campsite. And the final scene, Bradley and the Bible and the There Will Be Light shot, was shot on our studio space, which is a defunct Sears in downtown Charleston.
Mm.
So we lit it to match it. So the answer to your question is no.
Is there a way on your monitor system that you can line up a still from that and then make sure everything is lined up perfectly? Or do you have like a printout of like what the image looked like and then making sure that everything lines up that way?
All of those things, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The camera department takes detailed notes anyway. Knowing the height of the camera, knowing the lens, it was a very simple match. There was
Gotcha.
nothing tricky about it. The lighting was a little tricky because you're in a shopping mall and it needs to match you know 65 tents and horses and all kinds of stuff going by. But
Right.
the match shot wasn't tricky at all.
Mm-hmm. So with the lighting in the tents at night, I read that you were using candles and mirrors. So like, what does that look like? Like how many candles are you using? And then are you only using mirrors to like direct more light, or is it just to make it safer so there's not so many open flames?
No, nothing. Safety was obviously a paramount, but there was really no risk or danger. You've got fire marshals and all kinds of stuff, so that was in no way an issue. The outside of the church is movie lights all over the place. Outside of the tent, rather, is movie lights all over the place. Bradley was keyed with an actual period lantern that had its own mirror in there.
Hmm.
So it was for one candle. We stuck 6 candles in that and then accentuated with a larger bounce with another couple of other candles. And that's how we did it. So, a light meter measures in foot candles. So it's one candle a foot away. So
Mm.
you've got 6, you now have 6 foot candles, which was adequate. It was enough light.
Yeah. Wow. Did you guys, when every time Bradley Cooper is going under the bed, are you guys moving one of those candles under the bed too?
No, we did that with we did that with a regular light.
Okay.
That was a movie light. Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's like little details like that I feel like mostly only people who work with cameras or have tried like lighting something are like, wait, like why is there a flicker right there? But like when you're watching it, I mean, you need it because it would just be dark as
Yeah. I mean,
all hell.
obviously, we have the technology to make the movie lights flicker a little bit, but
Hmm.
it's the actual key light and it's a man in a tent. Maybe it would have worked with an incandescent fixture, but I can't imagine it would have looked as good as it looked with candles. And I wasn't about to find out. Let's light it
Yeah.
with candles. That's what we did.
Couple questions about the moonlight. Every time you see like a nighttime exterior in like a film or show, it's almost always brighter than it kind of is in real life, like how we see moonlight or anything like that. But I thought it was a nice touch when Bradley Cooper's character is dragging the body that we actually see the full moon in there. So was that a visual effects shot or was that actually during a full moon?
It was not a visual effects shot. That was
Nice.
that was a full moon, and it actually appeared in a number of the shots, even at
Hmm.
mediums and some of the low angle tights. The moon was in
Hmm.
there. I can't claim it was anything other than fortunate. It's where it was. Because our key light was right underneath the moon. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Um, and the color was perfect and the direction was perfect. A little bit of good fortune there, quite honestly. I got
Mhm.
to be honest.
Did you intentionally go the blue moon direction, or is that something that happened in post when they were color grading?
No, we went that direction.
Okay.
Yeah, we went with a blue moon. Yeah. Blue moon, a little bit of sepia, a little bit of green. That's a convincing nighttime color for
Yeah.
me. Everybody does it differently.
There are so many different ways to show moonlight in film, and I was just curious, like what the intention behind the blue, because I feel like blue is starting to become more and more rare in film. I feel like it's like there's so many grays, unless it's something like Nosferatu, where they had like the lens filter that was only letting in the certain colors, or something like Nope, where it's day for night, or something like that. Uh, I feel like I just don't see blue moons very often.
Yeah, it's just a decision. That's all it is. And you got to make the decision and carry it through the season.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. So Danny McBride has directed a handful of episodes, and this is probably the only one that he's directed where he wasn't actually acting in. Does his direction style change at all while you're doing that, or at least maybe the way that you guys collaborate together when he's not having to act?
It simplifies things
Mm-hmm.
when he can focus purely on blocking, directing his subjects. That he can stay focused on the big picture. I just don't know how you can possibly wear all those hats. Write it, act in it, direct it, show run it. It's like he pulls it off.
Yeah.
But there was definitely a heightened sense of focus when he was working on this one. He was all in on this.
Mm-hmm. And then I heard that you like made a custom light. Is that the lantern that you were talking about with like the six candles in there, or is that something else?
Yeah, it's something else. So there was I don't know if you remember the big setup when Ned Rawlins brings Abel Greaves into his scheme to basically rip off the general. Do you
Yeah.
remember in the
Mm-hmm.
card game? So that was a larger tent, 10 people in a circle, and it had to be lit so that we could shoot three cameras and work our way around the table with minimal resets. So during prep, I said, I've got to come up with something. So I put a tent up in the prop room, built myself a light, put it on pulleys. It basically it wasn't super complicated, but it was a three-channel bulb system that would have a constant, a flicker, and a medium to high movement. So something was always moving, but you never lost exposure. And on the outside of that was an opaque shade, for want of a better term. So
Mm-hmm.
that could raise and lower separately. When the camera's settled, we would just drop it right to the edge of frame, and you could just work your way around the table with minimal resets. It kept the actors like fresh. No one had to step outside while we relit. It really helped with the pacing of the whole thing.
So if you didn't have that light, then that would just require more setups, and that like you would
Well,
just have to keep moving the light.
you'd be lifting. I mean, generally when you shoot in a tent, you don't really you shoot in a two-wall set, right? You
Yeah.
look this way, and this side lifts up. You put a
Mm-hmm.
black down there and the cameras are there. We didn't want to do, well, I didn't want to do that. My
Mm-hmm.
thought was, let's get in there, keep it claustrophobic, and just keep those cameras moving around the table and keep the atmosphere in there because we're pumping in smoke. It's hot, it's sweaty. I really think you'd have just taken people out of the environment if we'd have shot it like a commercial, for instance, where you would simply back the cameras up and lift the back of the tent and get on a
Mm-hmm.
long. So we just didn't want to do that. We wanted to keep it real.
I'm not sure if you have met or know of this DP. He's someone who I've had here on the show. Vanya Chernjel. He is a DP on House of the Dragon. He was telling me that you just never have enough extras for like anything that you do, even for a show as big as that or a show as big as Righteous Gemstones. And I was reading about how that was true for that initial Civil War fight for you guys, where you just dollied on the long track and you stayed looking at one side, and that encouraged a lot of creativity. It sounds like, as well as adding, I think, to the intensity of seeing this long one take of everything going on. Can you speak a little bit about the challenges and the solutions that you guys had?
Yeah, I think for once though, that wasn't necessarily budget driven. It was Danny's idea to just see the battle from one side. So the camera is in effect the front line, and
Mm-hmm.
these men are charging, who are in effect the soldiers, which is the camera. That was Danny's idea,
Mm-hmm.
and execution of it was Corey DeMeyers, the stunt supervisor. He and I sat down. I was like, right, how do you achieve this? His plan was you got to do multiple takes, essentially motion control, but it's not motion control. It's a dolly grip. Philip Dan is a
Mm-hmm.
particularly good one, thank God. So he has to match his speeds. Each run of the dolly, the action changes. For instance, first run, men charging. Second run, men's firing. Third run, cannons firing. Fourth run, horses running. Fifth run, man explodes and flies through the air and lands. That's how it was done, and then it was
Wow.
stitched together. stitched together in post. That was, as far as I know, I think that was Danny's idea in its entirety.
I understand the cutting between, but is that literally just like someone pushing, or is this an
Yeah,
electronic? Okay,
no,
wow,
no.
that didn't notice the cuts at all.
Right. So motion control is, as you know what motion control is. It's
Hmm.
a machine that will perfectly match as many times as you want the
Yeah,
move that you've established. Um, there's a thousand reasons why we couldn't use motion control. If gemstones, even a show as big as gemstones, can't just drop, tens of thousands of dollars to bring that machine in,
sure.
bring it in from play. But it's like, no, we have to do it manually. We got to do it the John Ford way, the old-fashioned way.
Hmm.
That's what we did. It was
Yeah,
thought through. We have every piece of equipment. We have monitors. We can see everything that's going on. We have the post supervisor there, Bruce Brannett, who knows what he's doing.
hmm.
And right away, it's like too fast, too slow, not this, not that. But he actually never did. I can't say enough about the dolly grip. He's, master of his art. He really is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that scene was perfect, and yeah, totally didn't notice the cuts. So that's really cool.
Not to get sort of pedantic about it, but it really wasn't cuts, it was layers. The dolly goes the whole way. So every stunt performance
Oh,
perfectly choreographed. It doesn't
yeah.
stop. It goes. Did we get that? Great. Next layer. And then how whatever magic Bruce conjures up, that's how he does it. So the dolly doesn't stop. Do you see what I mean?
Mm,
It
yeah,
runs the whole way. And all those people are perfectly choreographed.
gotcha. Wow. Yeah, when I was reading about that, maybe I wasn't reading about it, maybe I was watching an interview. I don't know. Pretty sure it was Danny McBride talking about instead of having to get a ton of like union costumes, more so than the ones that are at the end, and then like either doubling the amount of extras or moving the extras, recostuming them. He's like, oh, let's just shoot this direction. But I wonder if maybe he just kept that to himself to the interview of like his
Maybe.
thoughts
I mean,
or
there was never a. I mean, it almost doesn't matter, does it? It was his. I'd be shocked if there was a significant budgetary concern, to
yeah,
be honest.
yeah.
I didn't hear about it. So
Mhm.
this is what I want to do. He didn't say this is what I do, what I want to do because he just
Yeah.
said this is the plan. I was like, great, let's do that.
The shot at the end when Bradley Cooper's character is dragging the bodies, there's a shot that's kind of like a snorri cam type of shot where it's like the camera almost looks like it's attached to someone and he's throwing the legs up over. Is that a rig with fake legs, or is that you on your back with
Yeah, that's a
legs
great.
up? Or
That's a great question. So I was the A camera operator on Halloween, 2016 or something.
hmm.
So I did that shot with the monster, the shape pulling me. So I put
Hmm.
on the actor's trousers and shoes, and the monster dragged me, and I held the camera. So we did
That's
exactly
awesome.
the same thing. So Peter, the camera operator, put on a soldier's outfit, and Bradley Cooper dragged him along. We put down a sheet of plastic, and he dragged him.
Wow,
That's what we did.
that
So I knew
that's
it would
awesome.
work because I've done it before.
Yeah. I almost felt dumb asking the question because it's like I feel like in all these bigger productions it's always like no one's going to be dragged on their back. It's probably a rig with some fake legs so no one gets hurt, but I'm glad that I asked. It's really
Oh
cool.
no, no,
Yeah,
we're
that's fun.
gemstones. Plenty of people get dragged on their back. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have no fear of that kind of stuff.
In this episode, you guys were kind of replicating like those Civil War photos. And so I was curious like what your process was to replicate those as well as you could.
Well, the idea was, well, let's first of all find out the format. So it was large
Hmm.
format. Find out the lens thing. Found that out. Make the conversion to 35 millimeter, and then create a tableau that we could drop 4 or 5 soldiers in before we changed the tableau again. That was the move. So what I attempted to do was make motion picture look like long exposure photography.
Hmm.
So if you look at that stuff, you can see that the people had to sit still for 30 seconds, sometimes more, 40 seconds, a minute. And consequently, there was very little direct light. It was like a large amount of soft light. Like, so they would always face them north. Do you know what I mean? Just to get
Hmm.
that sort of that kind of light. So we created it with 12 by and 20 by blacks and sent the key light in with a passive bounce. I think it was a 12 by muslin, and let the background get hot. We overcranked it 60 frames per second, and I would just encourage our actors minimal movement. But that doesn't matter what you do. You're moving a little bit and you're blinking, and it worked really well. It made for a very tranquil scene. It was cool.
I thought the lighting looked very unique. Like there was a soft quality to it that doesn't just look like, you're softening the sunlight. It looked, yeah, I don't know. I guess hearing that you were blacking out the light on the side and then, that whole lighting, it makes a little bit more sense. But when you were shooting at 60 frames a second, are you keeping the shutter for like your 24 frames a second, or did you have that go up as well?
Well, very good question. If you shoot at 60 frames per second, you have a 180-degree shutter. If you play it back at 60 to try and make it regular speed, you can end up with a really skinny shutter. That can look kind of strange. But if you play it back the way you shot it at 24, you've got the 180-degree shutter. So it looks smooth.
Yeah.
Not even Private Ryan.
Yeah. Not that jittery storm in the beach. Yeah. Gotcha. And then there were a lot of daytime tent shots in here. The way that those tents were, it seemed, pretty like a convenient way to soften some light. What else were you guys doing with the lighting there, if anything, to try and, make it look as, I guess, good, but also gritty at the same time?
Well, the tents were particularly problematic because we're shooting in the south in the summer. The sun's high and it's hot and it's bright, so those tents just explode. So most of our battle, myself and the key grip, Lee Donaldson, it was all about getting blacks on those tents or doubles on those tents or swinging a fly swatter over those tents. Otherwise, it would just look preposterous. It would look like a product shot for eBay. Do you know what I mean? It would be a big white blob. Yeah, the trick was getting rid of the light.
Gotcha.
The amount of light wasn't a problem. It was just too much of it,
Yeah. Wow, that's really funny. I'm surprised I didn't think about that because I film a lot of weddings, and I always say basically every wedding, I'm just like, whoever came up with the idea to have the brides be in a white dress, like, I hate them, because it's always like a 3 p.m. Ceremony. So I'm like near Lake Tahoe. So you've got like, spotty shade, and she's coming in and out of the shade. And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. Everything else is so dark. If I don't want to even chance overexposing, her dress, and, that's going to look stupid if the bride has an overexposed dress. So that's hilarious that, I didn't even think about that with the tents. That's cool.
Victor, weddings, Civil War, it's all the same. We're all doing the same stuff. We really are.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, so that about covers all the questions I had about your work on that Civil War episode. It was great. I watched it twice, and I appreciate you taking the time, especially on day one of you shooting your next film.
Thanks so much, Victor. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for giving me a call.